For those of you guys who still want to play pawn to e4 on move 1, that's fine, but you may run into the Scandinavian defense. What do? Well, e takes d5 is the main move, but if you really want to avoid the Scandinavian defense completely, just transpose this back to the Vanguard opening with knight c3, asking black to advance his pawn, which is the top played move, by the way. After you play knight c3, they are going to play d4. They don't really take. And if you want to know what to do against pawn to d4, you can watch the video that has popped up in the card above where I was covering the Vanguard opening. But just to highlight something very quickly, after d4, you go knight ce2, and after pawn to e5, you don't want to play knight f3 first before black plays pawn to c5. So you go knight g3, and after pawn to c5, which is the top played move, that's when you go knight f3. So this is just the reverse Nimzowitsch defense, where you can put your light squared bishop on c4, or you play bishop b5, which is my favorite, because at the end of the day, you just want to mess up black's pawn structure on the queen side like we do in the normal Nimzowitsch defense with black pieces. And then you go pawn to d3. Then after knight f6, you castle short. If they castle short, you go pawn to b3, not allowing pawn to c4 to happen. If bishop g4 comes, you always have pawn to h3. Bishop h5 is bad due to bishop takes, and then knight takes a free pawn. So they most of the times play bishop e6, after which you can now go knight h4, because you would love to put your h knight on f5, the juicy f5 square. And if black thinks he can win a free pawn by sacrificing his knight due to this, well, you just go ahead and take that knight, and after queen takes h4, you will just end up winning a free piece, the bishop. Anyway, so this is just like the Nimzowitsch defense, now with white pieces. So this is one way of avoiding the Scandinavian completely. In fact, even if you start with knight c3, you will always see your opponents playing pawn to d5, because that's the top played move in both the Masters database and the Lichess database, as you can see. So pawn to d5 is what everybody will play, and then you go pawn to e4 in this position, because you want to take this time. And you know what to do if pawn to d4 happens. If pawn takes, well and good, you just take back. And there's this funny line where if black plays the top played move in the Masters database, knight d7, like the Karpov variation of the Caro-Kann, you now go knight g5, moving the same piece twice in the opening stage. Yes, in 2024, we do break all opening principles. Anyway, if pawn to h6, black is dead due to knight e6, trapping the queen. And if pawn takes, you have mate in 2 like this, pop, pawn to g6, queen takes g6, mate. So this is another way you can transpose the Vanguard opening to the Scandinavian defense. e4, d5, then knight c3, or the other way. Again, if pawn takes, you just take back. Instead of knight d7, which most advanced players play in real tournaments, the move you're going to see oftentimes is knight f6. And if you watched my first Vanguard opening, I recommended to play bishop d3 so that after knight takes, you put your light squared bishop on f3 and then put your king's knight on g3. This is okay, but the main move I recommend in today's video is knight takes f6, where black takes back with the e-pawn. And this kind of looks like the Tartakov variation of the Caro-Kann. The only difference is black's c-pawn is still on c7. In the Caro-Kann, this pawn is on c6 by this time, and our d-pawn is usually on d4. So that's the only difference. From here, the plan is very simple. Just pawn to d4. After bishop d6, you develop both your light squared bishop and your dark squared bishop on these highlighted squares. So you go bishop d3, and after castle short, you sacrifice your no, I'm just joking. You go bishop e3, pop. The move bishop e3 also prevents black from playing pawn to c5, because you're just gonna take, that will be a free pawn. After rook e8, you have an option to develop your queen on d2 and castle long, then start attacking on the king side with all your pawns, or just play knight e2 and then castle short.